Now, before I get started on this video, I really just want to mention that if you stand behind what these people did to terrorize our nation's capital, then simply put, you're a terrible person. I'm going to just leave it at that. But anyways, let's just jump into the video. So the Warriors are currently playing 500 basketball as of late. They are 4-4 on the year. They started up pretty badly, losing to two of the best teams in the Eastern Conference by nearly 40 points. But since then, they have been 4-2 with a loss to Clippers on Wednesday night, which obviously makes them 4-4. They have been a very inconsistent team so far due to Clay being out with an Achilles tear, which obviously affects their consistency. New pieces like Kelly Oubre trying to find their role, and Steve Kerr's coaching style and his lack of adjustments. But with a 62-point performance by Steph Curry, as well as only losing to the Clippers by 7 points, the Warriors have looked a little bit better as of late. Despite that, Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins have been very disappointing this year as of now. Kelly is averaging 10.5 a game, which is a mass drop-off to what he averaged in Phoenix. On the other hand, Andrew Wiggins is doing a tad bit better, but a lot of NBA fans and Warriors fans do want him to be traded to another team because while he's averaging 18 points off of 40% from 3, he's shooting 43% from the field and 73% from the free throw line, all while making $29 million this year off of that 5-year extension he signed back in 2017 with Minnesota. On top of that, despite them getting guys like Brad Wanamaker, who's a good 3-and-D playmaker, Kent Bazemore is a pretty decent defender, Kelly Oubre is a good defender, Kevon Looney and Draymond Green are really good defenders, even though Draymond kind of dropped off after the 2019 season. The Warriors have not been good all year on defense. They are currently ranked 19th in defensive efficiency, which is basically near below average. And on top of that, their offense has been below average this year, as they are currently ranked 20th in offensive efficiency. So why are the Warriors below average this year? Part of it is because of some of the questionable decision making by Steve Kerr. Now, I'm not saying Steve Kerr is a bad coach. I think he's a really good coach, and he's no goddamn Luke Walton or Jim Boylan. Sorry to Kings and Bulls fans that y'all have to suffer through that, or at least in Bulls fans, it's past tense. But Steve Kerr has made some pretty questionable decisions on offense. Like, for example, there was a tweet saying a pin down play they ran for Kevin Durant, they ran for Omari Spellman, who averages like 7 points a game and who's on the Knicks now. In the first few games I watched, Steve Kerr tried to implement his offensive system around Steph Curry, where he gets Curry to move off ball. Unfortunately, the Warriors do not have the personnel they did from before to make that work. In the past, usually those plays would work for Curry because people would have to worry about Klay Thompson just spying up for threes and knocking them down. In this day and age, they do not have Klay. Rather, they have Wiggins of Andrew, and Kelly Oubre, and they are basically relying on them to be the secondary scorers for when Curry is covered off ball. But the thing is that Kelly is not a threat from 3, and Wiggins, despite the fact he is shooting 40% this year from 3, you can live with him taking and making those open looks. And Kelly Oubre has been really struggling this year, shooting 33% from the field and just 14% from 3, while averaging 10.5 a game. You can live with Kelly Oubre taking and making threes, because even though he is struggling this year, last year he shot career high 35% from 3, and throughout his whole career he's been averaging 32% from 3. So at best he is a league average 3-point shooter, and he is a shooter that you'll live with taking threes. Other players like Damian Lee, who I said in my Warriors video could be their version of Lou Williams, he has struggled this year. Even though he hit the game winner against Chicago, Dame Lee has been averaging 6.3 a game, while he's shooting 50% from 3 at around 2 to 4 attempts a game. He is shooting 45.5% from the field. Another reason why Damian Lee has struggled is because this year he's averaging 18 minutes off the bench, while last year he played 29 minutes off the bench. So giving Dame Lee a bit more playing time could, not just because he's Steph Curry's stepbrother, say that 5 times fast, but last year he shot 40% from the field while shooting 35.5% from 3, which is pretty good efficiency, and Damian Lee should be getting a lot more playing time than what he's given right now. good player off the bench when you need some buckets, pretty decent defender, and he can be that player that Lou Williams is for the Clippers and that Dennis Schroeder was to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So basically, the reason why the Warriors have been struggling all year is because of inconsistent defense, despite the fact that they have much better defenders around Curry on paper than they do in the actual games. And nobody on the Warriors except for maybe Curry and a bit of Andrew Wiggins, because he's been playing okay as of late, they have not been hitting their shots. With that being said, even though it's only been 8 games into the season, this is a playoff caliber roster. You have Steph Curry, who's back, Draymond, who is another ball handler and a good defender, and you have guys like Andrew Wiggins, who's been playing pretty well, averaging almost 18 on pretty okay efficiency. Kelly Oubre is a good defender, as well as pieces like Brad Wanamaker and Ken Bazemore, who are good defenders. Looney is back. James Wiseman's been playing well. This is a playoff caliber roster, but the problem is that they have not been playing like it. So here's a couple ways that the Warriors can play a little more consistently as opposed to the first 8 games into the season. Now, I know they made this adjustment since they had their first 2 losses on the year. They made this adjustment quite a bit, but I feel like that this adjustment can be a little more useful as opposed to how they played in their 4 losses. And some of the wins that they pulled out have been pretty good, but I feel like this little adjustment can make the Warriors a little more consistent. Because Klay is out, Curry should have the ball in his hands for most of the possessions. The reason why is that, again, what I brought up with Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins is that they usually run these pin downs for Steph when they had Klay and even when they had KD. But the problem is, you'll live with Kelly taking 3-pointers and you'll live with Andrew Wiggins taking 3-pointers. The only guy that the defense is worried about is Steph Curry. Now, while this strategy will work, my biggest fear about it is that they will over-rely on Curry if they do make it into the playoffs, or even if they over-rely on him later on in the year. So I'm going to do what I do best. I'm going to talk about some potential trade pieces for the Warriors that could help take pressure off of Steph Curry, as well as fill out the void that Klay Thompson left since he got injured, because we all know Kelly Oubre can only fill so much of that void at his caliber. So the first guy I want to talk about is Terry Rozier, trade option number 1. So Terry Rozier has been averaging 20.6 a game with the Hornets on really good shooting splits. He's been shooting 47% from the field, 44% from 3, and 82% from the free throw line. The only problem with him is his consistency. There are nights where he has a 42-point performance, and then there are nights where he has below 15. But the thing is, with the Warriors, that'll be okay because you have Steph Curry as the main ball handler. I know I've said something about Wiggins' inconsistency, but the thing is, despite Terry Rozier's height, the difference between him and Wiggins is that Terry Rozier is a good defender at 6'1". Andrew Wiggins is 6'8" and can't defend a parked car to save his life. So basically, Andrew Wiggins is more of a negative if he's not hitting his shots. Terry Rozier can make up for it with his defensive capability. And the thing is with Scary Terry is that he is a shoot-first guard, which works for this Warriors system because you can get Terry Rozier some open looks from 3, and he can take the offensive pressure off of Steph Curry. Now, unfortunately, because this team fell through the Acumpo trap, as Flight likes to call him, because of that, they struck out a lot during this offseason, trying to sign the smaller pieces on 1-year deals. Now, Giannis is with the Bucks for 5 years on a supermax, and you're going to be looking at this roster like, oh boy, I wish we would have signed guys like Bogdan or Gordon Hayward, 2 offensive weapons that could take the pressure off of Steph Curry. And I mentioned Klay Thompson, that was before Klay got injured. Now, Bogdan has not been playing all that great, but with the role he's given, that's pretty understandable. He's been averaging 10.5 on 38% shooting and 37% from 3. But with the role he's given and the minutes he's given, it's somewhat understandable, but he could be playing a lot better. Gordon Hayward would have been so useful to this Warriors team, as he's been averaging 21.9, shooting 49% from the field and 36% from 3, while shooting 90% from the free throw line. But enough about those two. Here's another trade I've had in mind for a while, because it does make sense in my mind. It would make sense for the Warriors. I don't know much about this team that I'll be mentioning because it does involve Andrew Wiggins, and you don't know what you're ever going to get from that guy. You either get a efficient 18 or below efficient 20, or just nights where he just can't find the freaking ocean if he wanted to. So this trade involves the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings trade Glenn Robinson III and Harrison Barnes, ironically 2 former Warriors, for Andrew Wiggins and one of their younger players. So for this trade, Glenn Robinson's a good defender, Harrison Barnes is a good defender, both know the Warriors system, and both are really good shooters. Last year, we all know that run that GR3 had with the Warriors, shooting 48% from the field and shooting 40% from 3, averaging 12.2 a game. And so far in the 5 games he's played with Sacramento with 19 minutes a game, he's basically shooting the same amount. But unfortunately, it's only at 2 attempts per game. So with the Golden State Warriors, Steve Kerr knows how to utilize Glenn Robinson, and Glenn could be a spot-up shooter, and he's a really good defender. Now in the case of Harrison Barnes, obviously he knows the Warriors system better than GR3 because he's played with the Warriors for 4 years, won a championship with them, and obviously was part of their 73-9 roster. And then he signed a 4-year deal with the Dallas Mavericks 5 days after the Warriors got Kevin Durant. The only difference between Barnes then and Barnes now is that Barnes is a much better scorer. This year he's been averaging 17 a game off of really good shooting splits, 49% from the field, 36% from 3, and 77% from the free throw line, which is pretty good for a player of his caliber. Now in this trade, the Warriors would be getting 2 a little more consistent guys than Andrew Wiggins. Barnes would obviously have to be the second option, and then Glenn Robinson would be a 3-and-D cutter. This trade would give the Warriors pretty good offensive-minded players while getting 2 consistent defenders at the same time because, again, GR3 and Barnes are pretty good defenders and a lot better than Andrew Wiggins. Now, I've seen an article on players that are involved in Golden State Warrior trade rumors. One of them is Lou Williams, but the problem with him is the same problem I have with Andrew Wiggins. Lou is worse because he's 6'1", 6'2", and if he is not hitting his shots, he's becoming more of a negative on the floor, and that would really impact the Warriors and not in a good way. But if Lou's hitting his shots, great. But if he's not, it would be a problem for the Golden State Warriors because Curry's already a negative defender. Kelly Oubre is a good defender, but he has not been showing that so far this year. And everyone else, well, they should be a lot better defensively, but the thing is they are almost below average. So adding Lou can really help their offensive rating, but the problem is that their defensive rating will suffer because Lou, again, when he's not hitting his shots, he's not a good defender and he's becoming more of a negative. In this same article, they do mention George Hill. George Hill would be a really good idea, but the problem is I do believe George Hill will want to go onto a contending team like Brooklyn and the LA Clippers, 2 teams that are in desperate need of guards for different reasons. The Clippers need a starting point guard, while the Nets need a backup guard because Spencer Dinwiddie is hurt. So I do believe George Hill will want to go to a contending team rather than a team that will make either the 6th seed, the 7th seed, or the 8th seed like the Golden State Warriors. But other than that, this team has looked really good ever since starting the season 0-2. But the thing is, if they want to keep playing like it, people outside of Steph Curry basically need to hit their shots. Kelly Oubre needs to hit his shots. Andrew Wiggins needs to play a little more consistently. Damian Lee should get more minutes. And Draymond should be a little bit better than what he is right now. And that's just me putting it nicely. So yeah, that's basically my take on why the Warriors have been inconsistent so far. I will be uploading a gameplay video soon on this channel. And as soon as I reach a certain amount of subscribers, I will think about doing a side channel where it's just all my gaming content will be on there. But for the time being, you'll be seeing a mixture of me doing basketball talks as well as me doing gameplay videos on Mortal Kombat, Batman Arkham Knight. I might do like a whole playthrough of like a certain game, me just messing around on Fortnite with some homies of mine. I hope y'all are staying safe out there. Hope y'all had a happy new year, and I'm X, y'all. Deuces.